Dry weather is disrupting crop planting across Asia, raising concerns about food supplies in the world's most populous region, and an expected severe El Niño weather pattern could inflict more damage from India's grain-producing northwestern plains to Australia's eastern wheat belt, and from Thailand's rice field to Indonesia's vast palm oil plantations, crops and farmers to reduce planting, crops and forcing farmers to reduce planting, farmers, analysts and traders said.
Attendees of the World Cup will not be allowed to carry reusable water bottles into venues due to safety concerns, FIFA said on Thursday, following a last-minute change to its stadium code of conduct. The governing body, which had earlier permitted empty, transparent, reusable plastic bottles inside stadiums, said the updated code, effective from Tuesday, now prohibits them.
Kim Jong-un inspected a new plant that makes weapons-grade nuclear material on Wednesday and said Pyongyang plans to beef up our state's nuclear forces at an exponential rate, according to a report from state-run media. The North Korean leader said that his country has more than doubled its capacity to produce weapons-grade nuclear material in the past 5 years, and that the new plant will help strengthen its nuclear war deterrent, according to the report from the Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, according on.
The government has shared a new electricity pricing plan with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, that would substantially increase fixed charges for industrial consumers using less than their sanctioned load, particularly those shifting to solar and other off-grid power sources. The proposal, officially termed the two-part industrial tariff policy, aims to recover fixed costs and capacity payments from industrial consumers as more users migrate away from the national grid due to high electricity prices and weak economic growth.
Israel and Lebanon agreed on Wednesday to implement a ceasefire, but said it would require a complete cessation of fire by Hezbollah. According to a joint statement after US-led talks in Washington, the two sides, which do not have formal diplomatic relations, also agreed to create pilot zones in which the Lebanese control of the territory to the exclusion of all non-state actors.
Delhi Gymkhana Club was born in 1913, raised for British officers and the colonial set, and was later inherited by bureaucrats, politicians, and the comfortably connected. None of that pedigree could save it, however, from the law. Last week, India told it to vacate the land by June 5th. The government read a single clause from the club's own lease, named a public purpose, and issued the notice. The land returns to the state, as do the buildings on it. The club says it will fight the decision in court, and it may. But the order is out and the clock has started. In Pakistan, the Lahore Gymkhana was born in the same year, is grander than Delhi's, and also sits on land worth a king's ransom. But no notice to vacate has been issued.
Benchmark Capital, the storied Silicon Valley VC firm known for early investments in eBay, Snap, Uber and Twitter, is breaking with one of its signature traditions, keeping its funds to about $425 million and backing only young startups. After more than 2 decades of restricting its vehicles to that amount or lower, the outfit has closed on commitments of $2 billion across 2 new funds, including a $1.25 billion vehicle dedicated to later stage investment, according to the Wall Street Journal. While the fund sizes of many venture capital firms have ballooned into billions of dollars over the last decade, Benchmark stuck to the strategy that helped make it legendary. By being staunchly selective and taking a large, typically 20% stake in every startup the firm backed, it maintained a model designed to maximize outsized returns for its limited partners.
They all look the same, and for good reason. Every budget over the past 10 years and more is pretty much the same, with minor differences, usually in the gimmickry being advanced in the name of a revenue plan. And it will be no different this time round. When the budget for FY27 is announced, there is a simple reason for this. A little more than a decade and a half ago, Pakistan finally abandoned its last attempt to try and get serious tax reform through. Since then, successive governments have been rolling out various gimmicks, from amnesty schemes to point-of-sale machines, to do something that cannot be done with gimmicks. They are trying to document the growing services sector of the economy with these gimmicks, which is like trying to measure the ocean with a teacup.
The government has postponed the announcement of the FY27 budget without offering any explanation for the decision. In the absence of an official announcement, speculation has been rife in the media about the reasons behind the delay. The most plausible explanation appears to be unresolved issues with the IMF, particularly with regard to fiscal space for relief and the transfer of some provincial resources to support federal spending. According to unnamed officials quoted in media reports, Pakistan and the IMF have yet to agree on revenue mobilisation steps and the expenditure cuts required under the programme. The government is reportedly seeking room for tax relief, higher development spending and increased defence allocations, while the IMF wants continued fiscal discipline to secure a primary surplus equivalent to 2% of GDP in the next fiscal year.
Banu? Peshawar High Court bench here has directed the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government to take appropriate disciplinary action after holding an inquiry against the relevant officers of the anti-corruption establishment, AC, over abuse of authority in registering a case against a serving judicial officer, Humayun Dilawar, accusing him and his family of illegally transferring land for a housing scheme in Banu, while ordering the quashing of an FIR registered against Judge Dilawar, who had convicted former Prime Minister Imran Khan in the Toshakhana asset concealment case, and his brother Sadiq Dilawar. Justice Muhammad Tariq Afridi and Justice Sabatullah Khan directed the Provincial Chief Secretary to immediately place the judgment before the competent authority for initiation of proceedings, in accordance with law, against the officers concerned.
Elon Musk's rocket company SpaceX is targeting a valuation of nearly $1.7 trillion in its blockbuster initial public offering, IPO, paving the way for the largest stock market debut in history in a filing with an exchange commission on Wednesday. SpaceX said that it plans to sell 555.6 million shares at $135 apiece, raising approximately $75 BN dollars. Islamabad. The committee constituted by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to review policies concerning the key sectors of the economy, as proposed by the Ministry of Industries and Production, lacks stakeholder representation. The committee, headed by Climate Change Minister Dr. Musaddiq Malik, has been tasked with reviewing the 4 policies, including the Next Generation Energy Storage Policy, Auto and Auto Parts Policy 2026-31, Mobile and Electronic Devices Manufacturing Policy and Solar Cells Manufacturing Policy.
KP Finance Czar says federal gov facing 1.7 fiscal hole. Muzamil Aslam claims centre in a tight spot due to coalition partners' needs. The federal government is having problems formulating the budget, owing to an around 1.7 fiscal hole, and wants the provinces, particularly Punjab and Sindh, to shoulder a greater financial burden, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's finance czar claimed on Wednesday. In November 1970, the Bola cyclone killed up to 500,000 people in East Pakistan. Yahya Khan's government introduced a 10% surcharge to fund emergency relief. Bangladesh became independent 13 months later. The affected territory was gone. The levy remained. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's government absorbed the revenue into general federal accounts in 1972. No accounting was published. In 1985, Genzia introduced the ICRA surcharge, framed as an education fund. The revenue balanced federal operating accounts. No alternative education instrument replaced it when it was abolished under the IMF's insistence. The template was set. 50 years later, Pakistan has not deviated from this template. What began as a cyclone surcharge is now a Rs 1.55 trillion instrument misclassified as non-tax revenue. The architecture is identical, but the scale has changed. Germany's foreign minister says support for Ukraine and Israel may have cost votes after Berlin failed to secure a rotating spot on the UN Security Council. Johann Waderful described losing out to Portugal and Austria as a bitter defeat. After a vote on which countries would become one of the 5 new members of the Council was held on Wednesday evening.
Sokoto, Nigeria. Each time her curious 7-year-old child returned home from school with homework, 28-year-old Habiba Abubakar knew it was time to take him to her neighbor, whom the child called Aunt, even though they were not related by blood, who had been his savior every time he wanted to stand in front of his class and receive a standing ovation. But that changed in 2021. And Abubakar enrolled herself in the Women's Center for Continuing Education, WCCE, in Sokoto State, northwest Nigeria.
The Republican-led US House of Representatives approved a resolution on Wednesday to block President Donald Trump from continuing the war against Iran, reflecting growing concern among the members of conflict. The House voted 215 to 208 as 4 Republicans voted with Democrats in favor of the War Powers Resolution, which directs Trump to withdraw US troops from Iran unless Congress declares war or authorizes the use of military force.
In a quick commerce market obsessed with speed, Indian startup First Club has convinced investors that quality may be a fresh opportunity, helping to double its valuation just 9 months after its last funding round. Bengaluru-based startup has raised $55 million in a Series B round co-led by Peak 15 Partners and Sofina, valuing the company at $255 million after the investment. That's up from $120 million raised capital in September 2025. Existing investors Accel, RTP Global, and Paramark Ventures also participated. The latest financing brings First Club's total funding to $86 million.
The US House of Representatives passed a measure that seeks to halt President Donald Trump from taking further military action in Iran. The 215 to 28 vote was successful after 4 Republicans joined Democrats in a rare public show of disapproval of the war, which began in February. This is the 4th attempt by the House, which critics say lack congressional war powers, which critics say lack congressional approval.
Antelope Reef is a small teardrop-shaped island in the northwestern corner of the South China Sea and, until recently, almost entirely underwater. But this year it has undergone a dramatic transformation.
Adam Hamawi, a plastic surgeon, army veteran and conflict zone medical worker, has won a crowded Democratic primary for an open seat in the United States House of Representatives. The Egyptian-born doctor's victory puts him on track to represent New Jersey's 12th congressional district, a Democratic stronghold. He will face off with Republican Greg Mealy on November 3 in the midterm elections. The United States House of Representatives has passed a resolution to rein in President Donald Trump's powers to attack Iran without congressional authorization. 4 Republicans joined Democrats to pass the bill in a vote of 215 to 208 on Wednesday in Washington, D.C.
Jose Mourinho will return to manage Real Madrid if Florentino Perez wins the club's presidential election on Sunday. The sitting president has declared as he campaigns for another term at the helm of the La Liga club. Perez, facing renewable energy entrepreneur Enrique Riquelme in the club's first contested election in 20 years, delivered the campaign announcement on his social media channels with a short video featuring Mourinho simply saying, "Yes."
Lovable and Google announced an expanded multi-year collaboration on Wednesday. Lovable, the fast-growing Stockholm vibe coding startup, has long been a Google Cloud user. Under the new agreement, it will be a much bigger one. While the companies did not disclose the dollar figure, a person with knowledge of the deal tells TechCrunch it involves a 5-fold increase in Lovable's footprint on Google Cloud, including AI usage. As part of the deal, this individual tells us Lovable will gain expanded access to both Anthropic's Claude, the AI model widely used for coding tasks, and Google's own Gemini models.
Donald Trump has become the latest US president to find himself at odds with Benjamin Netanyahu after reportedly clashing with the Israeli Prime Minister over military action in Lebanon that has thrown Washington's Iran diplomacy into crisis. Tehran responded to Israel's strikes on Lebanon's by threatening to suspend talks to extricate US. Potential setback to Trump's efforts be hem from an unpopular war with Iran.
Security agencies from the Five Eyes alliance, which includes the United States and Britain, issued a warning on Wednesday about Chinese spies aggressively using online job platforms to recruit people with access to sensitive information. Safeguarding Our Secrets bulletin says China's military intelligence services were using a wide array of professional networking sites and online recruitment services to target those in government, military, or anyone who could access classified information.
A Democratic lawmaker in the United States has grilled top diplomat Marco Rubio on whether Israel has nuclear weapons, but the Secretary of State did not provide a clear answer. Most of the world assesses that they do. Rubio told Congressman Joaquin Castro at a hearing on Wednesday, though he refused to share Washington's own position on Israel's nuclear weapons. Loading the player, defense tech is red hot right now. Anduril and Mac Industries just doubled and quadrupled their valuations respectively, and the US government is proposing a 40% increase in defense budget. A wave of new startups is chasing those government contracts. But according to Ross Fabini, the venture investor wrote Anduril's first check, most of them will get lost in the valley of death, between prototype contract and real production deal.
Meta's attempt to pioneer a metaverse and make VR cool totally flopped, except for one shining diamond in the rough, Supernatural, a VR fitness game that made working out feel fun and accessible. Now, users can rejoice that Supernatural isn't shutting down after all. For Meta went through the hassle of fighting an 8-month antitrust battle so that it could acquire within the game studio that made Supernatural in 2023. The deal was reportedly worth around $400 million, plus however much it cost to fight and win an FTC lawsuit. Yet after all that effort, Meta laid off much of its VR team and announced that it would stop adding new content just a few years later.